So every chess match has a turning point, and this match is no short of that turning point. And you're going to see that in this match as I played this match against Ali Berniku in 1991. It's always weird how, everyone within 800 ELO has got these weird names. I mean, mine is Night Shift, but it's an interesting game which I played against this opponent, and I think you will enjoy that. But there is a turning point in the game, and this turning point in the game kind of then determines the rest of the game. In fact, if you haven't gone through this, you probably will. And I think, in fact, everyone at some point will go through turning points. In fact, every chess game has a turning point, and there is no shortage of turning points that chess games will have. And the turning point either works against you or works with you. You either get an advantage or you become disadvantaged. And it really comes down to one thing, or two things, or three things: either a bad move, or missing an opportunity, missing a capture, and maybe not really thinking things through, or just miscalculation. There's always a turning point in every chess game. And in this game, there was a turning point, but I did not see that up until I reviewed the game. So that is my opening for this game. So let's have a look at this game and see, of course, how things went as I played this game. So here we go. So as usual, I was playing with the white pieces, and my opponent was playing with the black pieces. So d4 book move, and a d5 a book move from my opponent as well. Knight c3, and then followed by knight f6 on their side, bishop g5, and then followed by an e6 move, a pawn move on their side. So the game just continues. I capture, they capture, I move forward. They obviously pin my knight to my king, and I develop my further pieces. They develop, I develop, they develop, I develop. And the game just continues as normal, okay? And at this point, I'm looking at the game, and usually up until this point, you're kind of thinking, am I in a better position? Can I convert the position? And at some point, you can't really answer those games until a certain point. I do not see anything that is worth converting at this point. My pieces are kind of all over the place, and their pieces as well, so not really a good opening. Even though I do believe that I'm in a better position than they are, but at this point, not much has happened. Up until they made a move which I was supposed to capitalize on, bishop h3, and they capture my knight. Now, there are a couple of things which I could have done here, which I missed and did not see. And it does not mean, though, that by seeing this, this could have tipped things totally in my favor, but it could, depending on what they did. Now, at this point, what I was supposed to do is not this. This was an absolute blunder. Now, just to move back a bit, if I were to capture their bishop here, my concern at this point is that it leaves my king exposed on the g file, and they have a very powerful piece, which is the queen on the f file at the moment, and this could have easily, put me in a much more precarious, well, in a very bad position. But the thing is, I could have continued with this move, which is my pawn capturing their bishop, because at this point, they really have no other piece which would have supported the queen in coming this side. I think also, if I were to move out of the way, so let's say, I get this check, I would have been able to move out of the way, maybe even potentially bring, maybe not this move. Let's go back a bit, maybe even potentially bring my rook right over here and play the game moving forward to really put myself in a better position. I could have also maybe brought my queen here because I've got this pawn protecting it, and it would have been a good game. Over and above that, I also had another opportunity. So according to the computer, they could have castled at this stage, bring their king here and then their rook over. And I also had an opportunity if after capturing this piece, apparently the computer is saying that they should move here, which is fine. But I could have also counteracted with this. Now I've got the queen in check, and I've got the bishop forked, and I have the potential of moving to c7. Again, forking the king and the rook. This was a turning point in the game, and I did not see that. Instead, I played a sillier move. Look at that. Rook e1. Now, I am moving my rook out of the way so that should they capture and maybe even potentially bring their queen here, I'm in a better position. Well, so I thought. Or they move their queen here with the potential of a checkmate. Because then if they have the queen here and the bishop here, then I cannot capture this bishop because then I would have my pawn pinned by the queen. But this was a silly move. This was a silly move. I essentially moved my rook out of the way, pinning it with or being pinned already by this bishop, which would have taken the rook if I were to move my knight out of the way. So as you can see, and I'm sure you can make your own deductions as to seeing that this really wasn't a good move. Even the computer acknowledges that this wasn't a good move. I'm essentially moving my rook out of the way, pinning myself to my knight, which is then diagonaled by this bishop right over here. Whereas I could have just continued by taking this piece. There's potential to move out of the way, bringing my rook and stopping any movement of this queen onto the g file here. But instead, I pin myself by moving my rook to the left-hand side to the e1 square, and now I'm in trouble right over here, whereby I could have left my piece over here and potentially move my knight to d5, pinning the queen, or rather forking the queen and forking the bishop with further ideas to move here, pin, forking the king rather, and also forking the rook, and not really worry much about their queen moving here or moving here, giving me a check because I would have moved out of the way, put my rook in this position, and kick out the queen away, whoops, away from this G file. But I missed that. And that is the turning point of this game. Let's continue. So, of course, I move out of the way. Again, this is a blunder. There could have been a better move, which I should have taken, or a path I could have followed. Also, I could have just taken this bishop here, as I have already explained, and put myself in a better position, regardless if I get checked, because they really had no pieces, to support the queen if I were to be put on check, because all their pieces are on the left side of the board. So the queen really had no support, and I would have had a better advantage given the fact that also, like I had explained, I mean, if I had taken this, I still have my queen, which I can move here, block any checks, and continue development within my game. Always a turning point in any given chess game. So this is always interesting. And it's amazing that when you start to review these games, you start noticing possibilities and things you could have done better and distinctions which you could have made along the way. But it doesn't always happen that way. You, me, and everyone else, including grandmasters, miss these things. It happens all the time. There are just many variations and possibilities that happen within chess. So unfortunately, that is just how the cookie crumbles. And in my case, let's see how things then continued from this point. So I move my rook out of the way, and I think, I mean, this is not necessarily a bad move. I did have an anticipation that maybe I'd move my pawn onto g5 right over here, which was also a problem because then I would have allowed this bishop to stop me from moving away maybe to the left hand side. And this also in itself would have been a problem. So, but this is a blunder. This is a serious blunder to begin with. There are many other moves which I could have done as opposed to what I did do. So again, let's resume with the game. So they take, and again, now I've got this dark squared bishop, which is now attacking my rook, but I also obviously have the possibility to take here. So I take, they move into this position, and this was my fear. I anticipated this move in advance, but at this point, it served me no good. because again, if I move my pawn, this pawn, onto g3, it then allows the bishop to come in and stop me from moving away. Now I've essentially trapped my king. There were better moves that I could have played, but I did not. And at this point, my heart skipped a beat. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm in trouble and I could lose this game. But I kind of salvaged what I could salvage. So I move my pawn forward to g3. Essentially, now I've got my king trapped in this block. I cannot really move my queen to kind of counteract this move. I missed an opportunity prior to this and I could have done way better. It's really now going to be very difficult, to try and move my queen all the way, start attacking these pieces and so forth. It's just too many moves subsequently. And unfortunately, I cannot make these moves all at once. It's one move per session, per turn, and I'm in trouble. And I could see that I'm in trouble. There is no way that I can bring my rook back. And perhaps I could have an opportunity with this bishop right over here. And that is partly what I did as well. So obviously this bishop is now under attack. So the best thing to do is just retreat the bishop. But again, I retreat to a square that really does me no good. It really does me no good. So my opponent moves forward. And the idea is very simple at this stage. They're trying to move here, so I cannot take because I've got this pawn pinned to my king. And the problem again, I cannot move to the left-hand side. So I'm in serious trouble here, and I need to do something to try and salvage the game. And the best thing which I did is just move back and try to at least get this bishop out of the way, allowing me to escape my king onto the queen side. And that was really the possibility or the only one thing which I could do at this stage. So they take my piece, and again, I take with my rook. So the idea at this point is even if they do move their bishop, their pawn, sorry, forward, the thing is well, first of all, I can take with this piece, then I can also, move my king out of the way. But the problem is, I need to allow them to take my pawn first, and then I come back with this pawn. Now I'll have my rook open on the f file and allow the game to progress forward. Now, at this stage, I'm actually winning. Sorry, rather, they actually winning, not me. I'm behind 3 points. And that is a whole bishop or a whole knight of points that I am behind with. So let's resume with the game. So they push their pawn forward, and obviously I move my pawn forward. I don't know how this helps me. I have no idea exactly how this helps me. And I should have just kept things as is, maybe try to develop a different piece, perhaps this rook here to the b file, and just leave things as is at the moment. Essentially, allowing them to come through here and then taking with this piece and allowing my rook to have free reign. Again, to me, this looked like a blunder. What I did here looked like a blunder. I move my piece forward. It's a good move. It stops the queen from coming further forward. But again, it doesn't do me any good. This piece is not protected. And if this happens, this pawn is under attack. Anyway, let's continue. They take. Maybe this was the idea. But now that this is the idea, I am now forcing, or rather, I'm asking for an exchange of the queens. So take, take. But again, it's not a really better position. Take, take. Again, not really a good position. But I can still maybe try to convert this and force this into a winning game. So at this point, I've had 2 blunders. And the first one was with the rook. And the second one, as we continue throughout the game, and as I've demonstrated right about, well, at this point, okay? So they take, and I take, they move their piece forward. And this at this stage, I really should not have done anything from this. Just leave things as they are so that if they do take my piece, I capture with this piece and I've got the F file open to allow my rook to be active. Then if anything else, now I can bring my queen to start defending a bit more aggressively and stop any further advances from their side of the board. So it did not happen the way it should have happened. And again, even though the computer says this is a good move, I do not believe so. I think I could have done better and I missed my opportunity at this point. I also have an inactive rook right on this side, and this could have easily been brought here, and then from here, move all the way up and start attacking other pieces, from this side, maybe potentially putting them on check while or after I've dealt with this knight at this point, and so on and so forth. So I had better options, but this is not necessarily a bad move, moving my piece here to h3, the pawn to h3, but I could have done better. Again, blunders, blunders, blunders happening all the way throughout this match. Two opportunities that I've blundered and, two missed moves or better positions that I could have capitalized on. So let's move forward. They capture. I move my queen into the game. They capture, I capture, 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 and now I've got this piece under attack. So I defend this. They start getting their king into action, and I think at this point they probably should have castled. I cannot recall them moving their king at any point, so they could have castled and bring this rook into action, and also while putting their king into safety, because with chess you just never know. So I then bring this piece into action, my rook into action. Now the problem at this point is I've got all these pawns exposed here. There really isn't anything taking care of all my pawns here, and this is really stupid and or silly, if I may say, because they can essentially start bringing their knight into play here and essentially start attacking all these pawns, and also bring their rook and make their way up all the side and start attacking my pawns here. Okay, because at this point most of the action is on this side, okay, of the board, and I've also got my rooks concentrated on the white side of the board, so I'm really exposed at this point. And in a previous video which I made, I talked about this, that it's always good to have some pawns on the right side of the board and also have a few on the left side of the board. For me, this is important for an endgame, because typically in an endgame, you've either got the the king with one rook, maybe a bishop or a knight, and if you have those pieces, it's easy to have one of those pieces coordinating attacks on the left hand side or the right hand side. Now, if you only have pawns on one side of the board, then that means you only have the opportunity to really defend on that side of the board. Say maybe this side, say this side of the board, right? Because that is where all your pawns will be. But if you have pawns on the right side of the board and say on the left side of the board, then your opponent can only do one job at a time. Do they attack the pieces of the left, essentially stopping promotions of the pawns, or do they attack pawns on the right hand side, essentially again stopping promotion of pawns on the right hand side? If you have pieces on both sides of the board, for me that is an advantage. The opponent can only pick one side of the board to attack, while you advance the other side of the board to attack. In my case, moving my rook all the way to the right hand side, or yes, right hand side, that means I now have pawns exposed on the left hand side, and I cannot protect both. I have to choose one. But at this point, the whole idea is to advance and try to start attacking their pieces on the right hand side of the board, because most of the manpower is on the left side of the board. So let's continue. So they advance, I advance as well, and again they stop my idea of attacking this piece. They also bring now their rook and double up their rooks, which is always a good thing. Get double rooks and start attacking my pieces on the right side of the board. So I move my king out of the way. They advance, I attack. They bring their king, I attack. they come into position as well with a rook h3. Excellent move. I attack, king out of the way. I attack, and again, see what I'm speaking about. Most of their manpower or their powerful pieces is on the white side of the board. So what do? I start capitalizing on the left side of the board of all the pieces which are not protected. Anyway, I continue, or rather they put me into check, get out of the way. See, on the left-hand side, they're also now starting to advance their knight, essentially protecting this piece, but also eyeing all these other pawns on the left-hand side. And this is the one other blunder that I had in the game. I should have done better here to try and protect my piece, or rather my rook, but now I'm forked. I've got this knight forking my king and my rook, and there is no way that I can protect this rook. I can't even, buy myself some time, maybe putting them into check. I have to now deal with this matter. But anyway, I just see that there is no way that I can win, this game and within like, or rather, there is no way in which I can protect, both my pieces while, or rather, protecting my rook while getting my king out of the way. And as you can see, within a matter of 3 seconds, actually, yeah, about just way more than 3 seconds, I make the decision to just move my king out of the way, check, out of the way, they capture my rook. And at this point, I know that this is a lost game. Now, in my previous game, I spoke about how one can try and engineer a stalemate just so that you do not lose a lot of your elo within chess.com. But at this point, I really couldn't find a square where I could position my king in a way that puts me in a precarious position where I cannot move anywhere else and it just becomes like a stalemate. So this is under attack. Take, try to move my pawn, obviously knowing very well that there is no way that I'm going to be able to get my pawn to a queen. But anyway, I'm forward. They advance their king, forward, advance their king, forward, and exactly a move that they played that was actually encouraged by the computer. Obviously, they would not have known that. This is just now the review of the game. Move forward, capture, move forward, checkmate. And that was it. 3 blunders in one game. Everyone makes a blunder. You will at some point. We all do. And there was nothing I could do at this point. I should have salvaged the game at least in one of my, approaches. I think I spoke about that somewhere here. There we go. I should have done better here. This really also threw the game. Yep, right over here. This really threw the game. This blunder of my rook, and also the fork which I got at this point of the game. This would have been round about here, a fork. 3 blunders in one game. Now, it's not to say that my opponent did not make a blunder. We all make blunders, but I think mine were more severe than theirs. And because of that, I played and lost the game. And obviously, I paid for that, for these blunders. We all make blunders. You will at some point. We all do. But that's just how obviously chess works. So thank you for watching up until this point. If you like the video, well, there's many more within this channel that you can have a look at. And I really am also trying to make my way to an ELO of 1,000. And I think I'll definitely get there. But I need to be more critical and more surgical with my moves and my positioning. And I've played many games where that was just, the highlight of the game, where my moves were very surgical and everything just fell into place. But every now and then, you will make these blunders. So that is just how chess works. But it's a beautiful game. I really enjoy this game, and really finding those winning tactics, those winning moves. And when you play a good game, you just feel it. You just know that, wow, this was a good game, and I really enjoyed it. And then sometimes, like an idiot, you'll be so excited because of the good game you played, and then you play the next game and you just flat out just lose the game. But yeah, that is chess, ladies and gentlemen, and this is how it ended. So thank you for watching up until this point. If you like this video, well, you know what to do. If you want to become part of the community as I bring you more chess games and what I'm learning, then definitely also consider becoming part of the community. And for the rest of you, I'll catch you in the next game. Like the video if you find any value in it. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Up until then, take awesome care.